Really something she went up on this last week. I was operating through. It seems so dark up there. Did you guys want it that way? But aren't we usually like?
We're going to call the meeting to order, the Laguna Grande Regional Joint Powers Agency to order at 6 o'clock on Monday, March 11th, 2024. Roll call.
Board Member Garcia.
Here.
Board Member Raskoff.
Present.
Chair Pacheco.
Here. Okay, public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board on matters within the jurisdiction of the board, but not on this agenda, may do so during public comment for up to 3 minutes. Comments on specific agenda items are heard under that item. For the public record, please state your name and your citizen. Public comment is now open.
Good evening. My name is Diane Nielsen. I'm a City of Seaside resident, and I just have a something to bring to the attention of the JPA about oak trees on the east end of Laguna Grande Park, where all the wood chips get stored. The wood chips are coming down the hill onto the oak trees, which is bad for the trees. It needs to be cleared away from the trees so they don't sort of landslide down on the tree trunks. And it could be a fire hazard too, but if there's any way to take care of that and get the wood chips away from falling down the side of the hill onto the oak trees, that would be great. And I think that's it. And thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? Oh, yeah, back on Zoom now. Okay, sorry. I didn't know.
There is no one on Zoom.
Okay. I think maybe staff can get with you and related to or the wood chips and the trees, okay, or just follow through on that. Okay, item 4, business items. Provide an update on the permitting process for the implementation of the trail maintenance and vegetation strategy. So, Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, members of the board. I am Dan Mewis, the Recreation Director for the City of Seaside, and I have a brief presentation on the update on the permitting process for the implementation of the trail maintenance and vegetation strategy. I just wanted to kind of give a brief timeline on BFS work with the strategy. So you can see that their work started on May 6th, and 2021 with the biotic survey. The contract was awarded and executed. In May 10th of that same year, the survey was initiated. In July, the trail maintenance and strategy plan contract was awarded to them. We held a virtual town hall in July of 2021. A lot of us walked the site in August, a good community walk. I think there was about 20 or 30 people there at that time. And that was a very good community feedback that occurred there. In August of 2021, we really started working with the different entities, City of Seaside, City of Monterey, and the Park District to develop the concepts in the budget. And continuing in August, we had preliminary site studies that were completed. In November, the draft was presented to the board. We got comments and revisions were provided. In March of 2022, the adoption of the trail maintenance strategy plan, the board approved it, and then we started the CEQA studies. And CEQA kickoff, we had a CEQA kickoff meeting with the staff in mid-March of 2022, and then in April, the draft project description was submitted for the JPA for review. Continuing on in May, from May 2022 through September 2022, there was a lot of coordination going on between the agencies. We had multiple meetings, and we did have a little bit of a delay as we tried to figure out some of the parcels within boundaries. So that, delayed the CEQA process. September 27th, 2022, the design team moved forward with completing the draft of the CEQA study. We brought it to submitted the draft CEQA to the JPA in December 2022. And then in January of 2023, the public comment period was open. Public comment period closed for CEQA in February. March, of 2023, the mitigated neg deck was certified by the board. And then in June, it was certified by Monterey. Also in June, it was certified by Seaside. And then early July, it was certified by the Park District. And then in July of 2023, the initial contract scope ended. Went the wrong way. So now we're getting into the permitting process, which was the second amendment to the agreement with BFS. So as you remember at the last meeting, the board approved the contract amendment. The city of Seaside will be taking the lead on the permitting for the trail maintenance and vegetation strategy. Last week, we held a meeting. JPA staff met with BFS and EMC staff to go over the timeline. And at the last City of Seaside Council meeting, what occurred on 3/7, the contract amendment was approved. And then now the contract is going through the City of Seaside contract routing process. I know that there was some concerns about the timeline going, a little slower. I wanted the 7th was the closest or the fastest meeting I can get it on from our last board meeting because of the way the timing felt. So I put it on the council agenda as soon as I could, just to get the process moving. But we are confident now that once we get the city manager of Seaside to sign it, it's in the routing process. We will be moving forward, and we already have the timeline kind of ironed out. So you can see here on the screen, this is kind of a abbreviated timeline, if you will, but it does have the process going starting from March of 2024. And with all the permits that are needed, we will estimated completion in February of 2025. And you can see these are the different coastal development permit applications, the wetland delineation, regulatory agency coordination, United States Army Corps of Engineers permit, streambed alteration agreement permit with California Fish and Wildlife, and then the water quality certification. These are all, each one has its own specific timeline, and it could vary. Some could be shorter, some could be longer. They're going to go as fast as they can. It really just depends on the, the added documentation that may be needed. So we are in the right process. We are moving forward, and hopefully we can get this on the ground and moving, as fast as we can. So that's, really it in a nutshell. I just wanted to give you an update on where we were with that. I am happy to answer any questions. And then BFS is also here to answer any questions that's outside of my knowledge of their permitting scope. But we are excited that we can officially, start to go forward with this now.
Thank you. So any questions, sir?
Sure. Thanks so much. Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. Before I asked a question, I wanted to just ask the clerk if there was anything that could be done to share the screen on Zoom. I've heard from somebody that they're not able to see the presentation, so I just wanted to mention that in case that was something that could be worked on. So regarding the timelines, Dan, that you were just mentioning, I guess two questions. One is, how were the timelines for each particular permitting agency estimated? It seemed like they were sort of guesstimating it by, was it just sort of like they usually take 3 months, they usually, or was it based upon current workload, or was it, how fine tuned are those predictions?
It's my understanding that those predictions have been based on previous, attempts at getting the permits for other projects. And, it really depends on the workload of the permitting agency, because if they have multiple projects in their hopper, depending on where we fall once we start on that project, that will determine that. That is my best, assumption. Beth can answer that more in detail if that is needed.
And were those timelines determined by BFS as opposed to the city?
Well, yeah, those timelines were by BFS and EMC who was doing the work together, so that came straight from them.
Got it. Great. Second, is that my second question? Go ahead. Second question is, this list of permits here, how certain are we or confident are we that this is the list of permits that will be required? Are there possibilities of something popping up? I know it's, can't ask a question about what we don't know, but is there a possibility of other permits being required in the process? Or are we pretty confident this is it?
I think there's always that possibility. We are confident that we should be, stuck to this. Just depending on if going in there and let's just say that there's a new species of an endangered species that is found in that area or something, that could trigger something else. But from the work that we have done already, this was a list of permits that we have identified that was needed.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. And thank you for the update and the timeline is really helpful. Just to make sure I'm understanding what we're seeing on the screen here, could you tell me what the numbers represent on the far left? Is that just like a project or task or activity?
So this those are like the ones on the left, that's the initial piece. And then there's an internal document that has subsets of each individualized component that goes within each permit that they'll be working on. So this was kind of just broken down and abbreviated, hey, there's the bullet points of the actual permitting piece without all the minute details that we would be looking for too.
Okay, so I guess kind of going back to Kevin's question in terms of this being the complete list, are we missing any details? Like I see numbers going from 1, 2, 3, and then 7. So anything between 3 and 7 that we should be?
I don't believe so, but yeah. We'll get the expert to come up here.
So, like Dan had mentioned, good afternoon or good evening. I'm Beth with BFS. So like Dan had mentioned, this is sort of what we're calling an abbreviated, just because when we do a lot of our schedules, we try and put in every single task that we can. And so the reason we're jumping from numbers to numbers, if you look at number 3, which is the coastal development package, what we've also internally prepared are some internal deadlines for us to reach. So we have a timeline for us preparing the draft application. We've also then anticipated what the agency review will be and then when our public hearings will be. And so we estimate for the coastal review that's going to be between, I think we said March to October. But we have some internal elements there, and that goes along for every single jurisdictional agency. When we can anticipate submitting our initial application, when we anticipate maybe having a site visit or consultation, and then when we get maybe final determination.
And those more detailed events are also part of these estimates that we see on.
Correct, yeah, and we've provided that to the JPA staff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My next question is, and maybe this question is for you as well. If you can describe how any of these items that we see on the list are connected with each other. So in other words, do we need the wetland delineation in order to go on to the regulatory agency coordination?
No, these are all somewhat independent of each other. All the permits just need to be obtained before we can move forward with construction. It used to be that they would do sometimes what they called combined consultations, and we could maybe meet with Army Corps of Engineers and CDFW at once, but they don't do those combined consultations anymore. Everything is independent at this point.
Okay,
Yeah.
so again, to confirm, these items are independent of each other, not necessarily depending on one getting completed, so we can move on to the next.
The thing that is a little bit more dependent, above all, is item number 2, which is the project description and development and the impact area mapping. So we will make sure that that gets done by May is what we're talking about. And that information is done internally by BFS and EMC, and that's the actual development of the application. Once the application information is all put together, we disseminate that to the various agencies and their individual needs for what their applications require.
And again, going to the end date of that, of activity number 2, is that why items 11, 15, 19, 24 are scheduled to begin in May?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. That's why.
Thank you. Thank you for the reports. That's much appreciated. Going on to
Public comments.
public comment, yeah, public comments. Let's go to the what's anybody on the
There was one person there.
do they have anything to say?
Yeah, hi. I didn't know you had called on me. I just, it's Esther. I was just curious if these slides are gonna be on the Have Your Say Monterey website. I know that the agenda link was on there, but these slides specifically, are they going to be able to be posted on there?
Is there any other, continue your comments, then we'll come back for an answer after.
That's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay. Can staff answer that question and then we'll go on?
Yes, I will pass on the slides to the city of Monterey for them to post on their Have Your Say Monterey page.
Great, thank you. Items, any board on number 5, board member reports, requests, other comments? Gene, do you have any comments?
I do have a few. I'll start with just a quick comment to everyone to let them know that the latest edition of the Let's Go Outdoor magazine that advertises all the Park District events should be hitting your mailboxes in about a week's time or within a week. And within there will be 5 exciting new things that we're doing at Laguna Grande. Some of them were mentioned at our last meeting, but just to remind folks, or in case people weren't here last time, we have how to use binoculars for birding. We have beginning birding at Laguna Grande led by Audubon. And we have a bird walk. We have City Nature Challenge led by Pacific Grove Museum, and also a new mom movement class led by Reclaim Fitness. So we're excited to get the ball rolling with those 5, and then we're going to build upon that once we see what the community wants and what's been successful and what are some new ideas. So we're excited at the Park District to get started on that, and I know hopefully the community is excited to have more things to do at Laguna Grande. So that was my comment, and I did have a couple quick questions and requests, or I can.
Request, yeah.
Yeah. So one is was just mentioned about getting things posted to the Have Your Say Monterey, and I realize it's kind of complicated between Seaside and Monterey and sort of 2 different ecosystems online. But I know people sign up for the Have Your Say Monterey, I think expecting rightly that they're going to be notified when there's been new things coming up, like the agenda of this. I know I wasn't notified, and I've signed up for that website. So I guess I'd love for staff to investigate more about how there can be a tighter integration and those alerts getting out via email, because they don't seem to be getting out via email. And the Seaside agenda website is a sort of a multi-layered affair to sort of find the attached documents, and if the maybe there could be a bit more of a one place to find it all. And I think Have Your Say Monterey might be the existing places that we could maybe take advantage of. Instead of driving everything over to the Seaside website, maybe we can utilize the Have Your Say because it has that ability, hopefully, to proactively message people when something's been added. So just a comment about that.
Anything else, sir?
That's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. Any reports from staff?
I just got one report, but I also want to follow up to your question, Director Askoff. I believe too, if residents can sign up for the JPA agenda with our system, so when that agenda is published, they should be getting an email too. So while I don't want to inundate people with multiple emails, we'll work with Monterey, but that should be a function. And if you signed up and you're not getting the email, let us know and we'll work with the city clerk for that to happen.
And that's within the Seaside website.
Yeah, so there should be,
Investigate that.
yeah, there should be a link, like if you can sign up to receive notifications when agendas are published for this meeting. So we will work together with the city clerk to make that happen. My one report would just be that, at the last meeting, I mentioned that, the city was selected for grant funding for Laguna Grande Park. I recently had a meeting with the state and Caltrans. The initial meeting was to go over the preliminary engineering questionnaire. So I have to fill out this quite lengthy document, a preliminary environmental studies document is what it is, the PES form. And I'm working on that and I'll submit that. And once we submit that to the state and Caltrans, then we will fully be, then we'll move forward with getting the funding. This is the initial piece. And the good thing about that too is they'll let us know if there's any other permits that they're potentially needed that would also help us with this process. So I think overall it will give us kind of a twofold element on what is actually needed because we need this strategy and the permits in order to implement the grant. So I think it will work both ways. So I just wanted to give the board an update on that.
Great, thank you.
Quick follow-up about the grant. So could you maybe let us know how prescribed the activities or the outputs of that grant are, or are there still decisions to be made within the city about what exactly it's going to be used for?
Grant is specifically used for the trail on the seaside side from basically like Embassy Suites to the stairs at Fremont. And it goes around the park, it goes around the playground area, and then where it cuts from the paved trail to the DG trail, and it goes to the stairs. So it's just for that section, and then it includes benches and other amenities for the park within the seaside city limits on that side.
Right. And obviously that Seaside's grant, not part of the JPA, we're not a decision-making body on how that's, but would it be right to assume that you'll let the board of the JPA know when, what's going to happen first, what's going to happen next, and sort of the timeline of that staging?
Absolutely. The JPA, has an interest in the park itself. So that's going to be, focal point of what we're doing with the city of Seaside. So every step of the way, once I have them, when we have these meetings, I will be giving updates.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great, thank you. We're going next. Any other reports? Yep, sure.
Good evening, illustrious JPA board. Nice to see you. I'm Karen Larson. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Monterey. I was wondering if you would mind if I asked anyone else who is here or online if they also had a problem with not getting notifications, because I've been working really closely with our outreach office. And every time we update that website, a notification should be going out. The only time it may have been different, because I had a little red flag in my mind, was when the agenda was posted. We're not going to send another update because our update said the agenda, you can click on the agenda here 24 hours before the event. So there was an email that went out that said there will be a meeting on March 11th and the agenda will be posted 24 hours before the event. But I want to know if there is anyone else who's having that same problem, because I do work really closely with the outreach office and I want to get that good feedback so that we can rectify the problem.
Okay.
Anyone, you guys, no problems? Okay, the other quick update that I wanted to share is so that just so everyone knows, it's not necessarily part of the JPA trail maintenance strategy, but our cities do work consistently on ongoing maintenance as well as other grants and opportunities that are going on. And just to update, on the Monterey side of Laguna Grande, we do have a NCIP grant that is in progress right now, and it has gone to the Coastal Commission for approval. And that is for lighting near the parking lot and to replace 2 lights that are close to the walking trail. The CDBG grant is in progress. That has also gone to the Coastal Commission, and some of the amenities that we're purchasing for the park for that grant have been purchased, and they're waiting up at the park's yard. So once we're able to do the construction, those things will be ready to go. And we got notification from Blue Zones that our grant there for the bottle filler and dog bowl and bike racks have been shipped. So we're just waiting for those to arrive so then we can work on installing those when everything else works as well. That's kind of a quick update. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Okay. We're gonna, item 7 is to adjourn the meeting. Next meeting is April 8th, 2024, 6 p.m. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Is that it, right? Did I skip anything? Unless you all want to hang out, you're more than welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I know what you're talking about.
oh, yeah. So you can sign up for all meetings or all agendas or.